Hey, happy
Yahoo!
Wine Wednesday.
Happy Wine
Woo!
Wednesday. Cheers. Uh,
Cheers.
Canadian wine lovers, Carl's Wine Club members, it's 5 o'clock Pacific, it's 8 o'clock Eastern. It is time to talk wine. It's Dobbin Estate week here at Clara's Wine Club. So welcome everyone across the country. I am thrilled. I'm pumped. I'm super excited because we're talking super premium wines. I have some killer world-class Chardonnay behind me. It's going to be a heck of a night. We're talking Pan Canadian. We're talking Dobbin Estate. We're going to talk about maybe Bellaterra Vineyard as well. And I have so much to talk about tonight. So yeah, Mira, how are you doing?
Doing really well. Yeah. So I just found out. So we're hearing from Niagara. Everyone's saying, oh, there's this beautiful fall we've been having. The harvest is plentiful. And then, of course, the sadness in BC because they have like 5% of a normal crop. And I just heard today in the news that some of the wineries have started burying their vines in BC for the winter to try and avoid what happened this last January where everything froze over for 56 hours at minus 23 and under. So Daryl says he needs a GoFundMe for business class to keep in-house baker happy. We're community here. We'll see what we can do.
For the people who've been close to Carl's Wine Club VIP membership and our trips, and we know what's the in-house baker, who is the in-house baker, we know, and we know that she makes the absolute best macaroon and the absolute best Madeleine. So GoFundMe. If you started Daryl, I should definitely subscribe to it and donate to that GoFundMe because I also want to keep the in-house baker happy because every time we go to Niagara, she stays with us and she makes pretty darn good stuff. So yeah. Welcome, so Daryl. Welcome, everyone in Ontario who are listening to the show. We have in the green room Ann Sperling, viticulturist, winemaker, and Ontario genius in the green room.
Like that's the interesting thing. Like
that's it, right?
Sperling Vineyards was a Kelowna winery, so I'm so excited to hear from her because she's done amazing stuff on both sides of the country and around the world. So it's going to be lots of fun. Hey, Carl Boucher, are you up for a quick blind tasting before we bring Anne on?
I mean, is it really blind tasting? I mean, you should like when I got this in my glass, and I said the bubbles in there. I'm like, okay. I have a pretty good idea of what it is. It's a terrific ancestral method wine. It's an absolute gem. I love how geeky this wine is. I can't even point out exactly which winery it is because I know where it was in the cellar, and I'm sure this is that wine. But
you saw me going over there?
No, I didn't see you going over there. This is the only wine we have out of now 450 wines in the house. Who's like that? The only one. That's the only one we have. This
is how little I know about what's in there. Maybe I wouldn't have chosen such an obvious one, but holy crap, it's very, 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 very.
So this is ancestral method sparkling wine. It is a blend of probably 10 different grapes. It's from Stratus Vineyard. Well, I'm telling you, I'm calling it because I know at 99.9999% that's what it is. It's a tremendous wine. I like how geeky it is.
You're right. He's right. I did not read the label closely enough that ancestral is pretty hard to
miss. Yeah. Unfiltered, unfined, completely natural. I mean, it's press the grape, put everything together, leave it on the lees, don't filter it. put that in the bottle and let's our geek fan enjoy that wine. And this is freaking fantastic.
Very
There's
nice.
for sure some Sauvignon Blanc in there. There's probably some Chardonnay. There's maybe a hint of Viognier. Like I don't know exactly what they are, like what all
So
of the white grape varietals are
it's
growing
right on
into
the
the
bottle.
Stratus. So
And
please do.
you're right. So like the other wines we've tasted from Stratus, we have totally found them with the field blends. Like sometimes there's like 10, 15 varietals in there. It's kind of wild. But this one, it says right on the bottles, there's only 4.
Okay.
There's 41% Riesling, 30% Chardonnay, 18% Sauvignon Blanc, and 11% Semillon.
There you go. There you go. It's absolutely stunning. Absolutely
Isn't it?
stunning. It is.
And it's kind of fun because, I mean, last week we featured Southbrook Vineyards, which Ann Sperling was a huge part of starting, and I think 15 years she was there as their winemaker. We're blind tasting the Stratus wine. I'm pretty sure either Anne or her winemaking partner, Peter Gamble, were in charge of something to do with Stratus at some point. We don't know. We'll find out in a second. So it's like she's touched a lot of our favorite wineries and now is running a really exciting new project called Dobbin that we're featuring this week. So
Absolutely. So to get back to the easiest blind taste in history of blind taste at Carl's Wine Club, this to me, it's a 93 points wine. There's a few reasons why. Because first, it hits every single chord in terms of how intriguing and how unique it is. Often unique means weird. Often unique means This is unique and this is like good. It's geeky as hell, but not over geeky where it turns to be weird. No, it's geeky fun. It's also intellectually stimulating because there's a complexity in that really triggers my intellect. It's pretty darn fucking awesomely good, and the mid palate, the length. It's 8 o'clock Eastern time, so there's not supposed to be too many kids on YouTube at that time. But yeah, I am around. Like I loved it when we tasted it in April. They were just releasing it. This is even better right now. It's not too cold. I got the whole spectrum of it. It's probably what, $45? I hope.
Well, that I don't know.
But yeah, I give it a 93. I think it's outrageously good. Outrageously good. So
okay. It's on their website. It is $35 including tax.
I love it. 93 points, Carl's Wine Club. This wine is a stunner. I freaking love it. There you go. Yeah, thanks for the easiest blind taste in history of blind taste at Carl's Wine Club. Cheers to that, Mira Boucher. Cheers to Dean Stoika at the winemaker at Stratus, to JL, to all the team at Stratus. They're always so good to us. They're always so welcoming. We had always great experience there. So one of my favorite. Thank you very much. And yeah, so how do you feel? How's your week going, Mira? We have tasted some pretty cool wine this week, so I know you're freaking inspired. We're working on Pan Canadians. We're working on some taste and buy event. We're gonna go to Vancouver soon and all of that. So yeah,
and we got invited to go speak at a conference called Free the Grapes in Monterey, California in the new year, which is pretty cool. So let's zoom in on Dobbin, shall we?
Absolute freaking Lee, please. Well, wait a minute. Now I'm having I have something because I received these samples late last week. So because I was away in Victoria, I tasted them on Monday, did the Chardonnay tasting notes, and now I have 2020 and 2019 Chardonnay from Dobbin Estate. I mean, this is a heck of a treat for me to be sitting there talking to Ann Sperling and tasting two of our greatest creation. And yeah, I mean, I'm ready. I'm ready to rock.
Let's give everyone a bit of context. So we visited them kind of stealthily last April, and they treated us to quite a tasting over at their tower tasting room. So this is like us pulling into the winery right here. Was it rainy that day? I don't know, or that's just our windshield is dirty.
Oh, that was really murky. No, it was super murky, spitting here and there. But maybe yes, the windshield was also pretty dirty.
Yeah, so I mean, but look at this place. It's gorgeous. And they have a tower there. The tower, you go all the way up to the top. It's got an incredible view of the pond and all the vineyards all around. And I think it can seat 10 people or so. And you can do private tastings up there. It is spectacular. And they have a chef who comes in and does these gorgeous pairings with each wine. So yeah, it was quite a treat. Amazing. If you can fit that in next time you go in near Niagara, it's so worth it. And that's where they're at. So let's hear from Ann Sperling herself. And I think you're in the green room. Let's bring you on and learn more about what you were up to there. Ann.
Hi.
Great to see you. How are you?
Yeah, it's great.
Great to have you, Ann. Welcome to Wine Wednesday. It's so cool to have you on. Welcome. It's 8 o'clock your time. So how's your day?
Oh, it's been spectacular. The weather's really holding out for us, and yeah, so the vineyards are happy, the winemakers are happy, so it's all good.
We have to mention that these guys are still in the thick of harvest, so we're so grateful that you're taking some time to chat with us. I'm sure it's not easy this time of year as a winemaker and viticulturist.
Yeah, no, it's great to be here, so no problem.
You must be pretty much on the tail end of your harvest right now, Ann, correct?
Yeah, so we at Dobbin we harvested our Cab Franc a few days ago, and then in the region there's still cabs to come off.
Okay.
Early and some of the later cabs. Yeah.
I was talking to a couple of people in Niagara on the lake today that they just brought their Merlot in this morning, and they are absolutely raving, gushing over the quality of the 2024 Merlot, saying that it might be even better than the 2020. So I mean, for big reds with the quality of October that we have, it might take that promising vintage into another dimension.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we've had a really beautiful fall, and October has been particularly dry, and which is ideal. We've had a lot of 20-degree days, and so Cab just keeps chugging along through all of that weather. So I'm sure there's going to be some really gorgeous wines.
That's awesome. So you guys have brought your Chardonnay already. The Rieslings are in. When did you bring the Riesling in? That was maybe a couple weeks ago, or?
So at Dobbin, the Rieslings are handled very differently than what perhaps people expect. One of our approaches and Peter's philosophy is about multiple picks. So with our Riesling blocks, we're going through and harvesting over about a 5-week period. Maybe it's once a week, maybe it's 10 days in between, but we did get 5 picks out of our blocks, and I want to say the last of the Riesling came in about 10 days ago.
There you go. That's awesome. And talking about the quality of the fruits who are coming in, I know it's very early, but with an overview of what you've brought so far at Dobbin, is there a rockstar grapes that you're looking at for this vintage? Or I know I can't tell which one of my children are the best or which one that I love the most, but give me a little candy here.
Yeah, that's such a tough one, right? Because I think the Chardonnay and Pinot take advantage of, the summer heat and the nice September that we had, but the Riesling and Cab Franc, they just love the, chugging through the fall. And we've had such really good weather in both September and October that, it's kind of tough to say. I don't know. I'm excited about the Cab Franc, but it's still, still on the skin. So there's a long time before that's going to go in bottle. The Pinots are really exciting. It's our second harvest from the estate. And so that means, actually, I guess it's our third, but for the complete vineyard, it's the second harvest. And what we saw last year in each of the individual blocks, that are clonally planted, is holding true in 24 as the same as 23. So we're seeing some really amazing but classic traits in those individual blocks.
Okay, before we start to talk, especially on the Dobbin project, because I feel we have so much to talk about this, I want you let's backtrack 15, 25, 20 years back. And just to let our members who are listening tonight, that you have your thumbprint on a multiple different wineries operation throughout the years. I mean, we featured, like Mira mentioned at the beginning, Southbrook last week, where you were the winemaker with Bill and Andrew Riddlemeyer for many, many years. You were involved at Stonebridge and Lely, you and Peter. Is there, also, I've heard that you had at some point some maybe a little bit of influence at Stratus Vineyard as well. So can you give us a little bit of an overview so our members can relate a little bit of some names that they know here and there?
Sure. Well, Peter and I haven't always worked together on the same projects. We are now more recently, but sort of starting, I guess I want to say starting around 2000, we focused much of our time and effort on consulting, particularly Peter. He was finishing up with the VQA after its first 10 years of establishment. And so his first major, winery consultation startup was Stratus. So for the first 5 or 6 years, he was the only employee of Stratus, developing and redeveloping the vineyards, finding the site, and establishing the wine style, plantings, and then eventually hiring the dream team that we know today at Stratus. And then he did the startup at Ravine, and at the same time established and worked with the McConnell Gordon family at Benjamin Bridge and hired Jean-Benoit Delaurier and started building that team. And then, later in Nova Scotia with Lightfoot and Wolfville, the development of Tidal Bay as an appellation wine, just a number of others. And, so just over the years doing involvement on particularly projects that could make a difference in terms of the region or the establishment of, Canadian fine wine. So that's really, a lot of what Peter's been involved in. I have done some longer and shorter projects. So in British Columbia, I was at Cedar Creek and then moved to Niagara and did a few small startups and including Malivoire, and then got sort of hooked into Southbrook starting in about 2005, and then was there until just a couple of years ago, overseeing the establishment of the vineyards in Niagara, the biodynamic certification, all those things. So. And sort of concurrently doing Sperling Vineyards starting in 2008 until a couple of years ago. So yeah.
There you go. And thank you for the overview. It's pretty amazing. We have members here commenting. Oh, yeah, I remember from Malavoie. I remember her from Southbrook. And you were mentioning Peter in Nova Scotia. We had the pleasure to work with Jean Benoit there during the summer with the Pan Canadian. He traveled all the way to BC and spent a week with us. What an amazing guy with a wealth of knowledge. It was so cool to know more about this upcoming and very well-rounded region of Nova Scotia. So really cool that Peter had his thumbprint on that as well. So I'm rocking the Dobbin hat here. Thank you for sending that over. I really liked it. Now let's talk about the new project. Let's talk about Dobbin. I want to know, and I would love our people to know how the connection between Wade Dobbin and the Dobbins family came around, and you and Peter made the decision to say, okay, we love it. We're super excited. Let's jump in the project, and how everything started.
Okay, so this takes us back to late 2018, early to 2019, and it was actually Wade gave Peter a call and said, I've got some friends in the wine industry, and I'm from Niagara, and I've always wanted to have a stronger connection to be back to my home, and so I found this gorgeous 50-acre property, and I'm told that you can tell me what I've got and whether it's a worthy wine project, or if I should just make a couple of barrels for my friends. So at the time, Peter and I were had our hands pretty full, and we weren't really looking for new clients. So Peter kind of did the, we're kind of busy routine, right? And so Wade's like, he's not ready to give up just yet, and says, no, but it's on the bench. And I've got a south-facing slope and a north-facing slope and a 7-acre pond in the middle of the property. And Peter's like, oh, you bought the Laura Sabarin property. And he's like, yeah, how did you know that? And it's, well, for the Niagara Escarpment Bench, there's really only that property with that description. So the pond and the two slopes, because the bench is iconic for its north-facing slope. So so that was a kind of a hook in the first place, and I knew the property because it was the first biodynamic certified vineyard in Ontario. And so I got to work with some of the fruit over the years that Laura had grown and that sort of thing. So, it kind of piqued our interest, but really we needed a stronger hook. So we said, look, let's do some soil pits, because, that hadn't been done, that we were aware of. So on the property. And if we go back, kind of like 20 years there, I was involved, and Peter, along with a number of Niagara producers who, as a group, brought Yves Harity to the region in order to assess our soils. And Yves is the guy who made some big changes in how people farmed and how they looked at their soils in Burgundy, if you can believe it, kind of like the home of terroir. It's he actually helped people to understand how they could, work with the soils they had and to make better wines by understanding it. And
that group of people was some pretty big names, like Thomas Batchelder, the owner at Hidden Bench as well. The big players in on the bench.
Malavoie and Southbrook got involved as well, but
everyone chipped in.
Yeah, and Pascal Marchand, who was involved with the
Burgundy,
and he'd worked with Yves in Burgundy as well. So we were all very interested in upping our game as we are, and this was kind of our next way of exploring that and what the possibilities were. So, and you know, it's kind of ahead of the curve in a sense that, you know, now Pedro Parra is, you know, the hot soils consultant, especially for limestone and very particular soils like that. And he was, you know, he had his training under Eve as well. So so we took those learnings that we'd explored during those early visits with Eve, and then dug our pits, our 2-meter plus pits at Dobbin, and explored all the layers, you know, having a look at this amazing soil profile that had great depth, and, you know, good percolation and good mineralogy and, you know, all those kind of things. But the real, you know, sort of holy grail is, okay, how much calcium's there? How much calcium carbonate? And, you know, especially for the, you know, thinking about the great wines of Burgundy and, you know, the Grand Cru slopes, it's that limestone and calcium carbonate content that sort of distinguishes between what's good and what's great. And, you know, like the monks, they were documenting it and realizing that certain vineyards were better than others, especially when it came to those traits for greatness in terms of elegance, minerality, ageability, you know, and expression of the site individually. And, you know, later science caught up with it and said, you know, it's all about the calcium carbonate. So when we did all that earlier work in Niagara, we didn't find as much as we had all hoped was there. I'll just put it that way. There were little snippets here and there, and, you know, it's like, okay, we've got the mineralogy, so that's great. We know we can make these mineral wines, but, you know, it wasn't the revelation that everyone was hoping for. When we climbed into the pits at Dobbin, and we were, you know, specifically testing for calcium carbonate, we got ratings that were off the chart from top to bottom in every single pit that we had dug. And so it just totally blew our minds that, you know, that we'd sort of found the site in Niagara. And so that was, you know, really what drew Peter and I into the project. And, you know, there's this new revelation that, you know, we could do something really special on the site.
And now, so that you took that 50 acres property and kind of remap stuff, like where to put the Rieslings and like how much Chardonnay, where about, and you guys work on that for a couple of years, right?
For sure. You know, the reality of the existing property was, you know, someone who was growing grapes and was trying to access a really specialized market, being biodynamic and being so far ahead of the curve. Her main market was home winemakers. And so she had a little bit of everything planted across the fields. So very little of it was, you know, going to live up to what our goals were for the property. So we kept 2 acres of the older vines, Chardonnay and Riesling, but all the rest of it, so it's 50 acres, but only 17 are under vines. So we maintained the existing blocks for vines. We left the natural area. So we've got like an oak forest on one side, a walnut forest on another, a lot of trees surround, and of course the pond with its sort of accompanying wetlands. And, you know, the hat, you've got your blue heron on the hat, and that's, you know, a symbol of the biodiversity that we've got that surrounds the pond. That's absolutely stunning. So yeah, so we replanted much of the property and looked at everything. We're like, okay, this is a vineyard for the future. So we got to look at, you know, where have we been climate-wise? What do we know? What have we learned? But what has the region learned? Like, we were able to like stand on all the shoulders of everybody that has worked in Niagara over the last 30, 40 years and say, you know, these are the things that are working. And this is where we think the climate and the grape growing is going in the region. So We went with tight spacing. We went with, using both of the slopes and working with what we refer to as the big four, the varietals that we know can sort of stand the test of time: Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, Cabernet Franc, and Riesling. And then we looked at clonal opportunities, some that we knew well from the region and others that we thought could fit in, addressing cool seasons, warm seasons, that kind of thing. So we've got a really exciting mix of plantings.
And before you guys get there, like at any point, Wade Dobbin says, "Okay, guys, you are in charge. You have the blank slate. This is I want you to give me the best of the best." Was it kind of the message, or?
Yeah. No, I mean, eventually, we convinced Wade that he had something special, and we showed him with some of the wines that we were able to make from the property. In 2019, we still used some of the fruit that was existing on the property, and we were able to bring those wines to him along with some other kind of great benchmarks and particularly with Riesling, but across the board to work with those varietals and do it at an extremely high level.
Yeah, no, totally, and I think Peter had a really soft spot for Riesling. It's something that he really he had something from a really long time. He wants to recreate. I know that he had his eyes on German style of Rieslings and all that. And I mean, when you taste these Rieslings, that was my first impression when I was sitting in the tower with you guys and we tasted the first four wines. The Riesling really, really stood out to me. How world class at a really young stage of the project. The Riesling was absolutely outstanding.
Yeah, and that's we really have been able to take a lifetime of experience and put it towards this project. So when you and Peter spoke and tasted, he spent a lot of time, and you could see the excitement and animation on his face talking about Riesling, because starting in the earliest part of his career in the 80s, he fell for Riesling hard, right? So he also had some really great opportunity to study and taste wine and to explore a lot of great vineyards and a range of producers in both Germany and Austria, and going into the cellars and tasting the individual vineyard lots from these amazing and great vineyards. So that really left an impression on him. But when you read about Riesling in the books, about Cabinet and Spätlese and Auslese and all of that. But what he learned kind of from the insider's point of view is that they're picking multiple picks from each of their vineyards and across those sugar levels. They're not necessarily just targeting, okay, now we're at the right, Brix or Uxla for Auslese, so we're going to pick it all now. It's all about, picking some for acidity, some for freshness, some for certain flavor profiles as the grapes evolve, including some berry picks for botrytis that, you can use like your spices, your spices to go back into your dish in tiny quantities, but just to get the flavors and textures and one more layer. So each of these picks, and each are individual ferments. We're using wild yeast and long aging. So after 18 months in individual barrels that range from sort of 50 liters to 300 liters. We're not talking, 1 10,000 liter vessel. We're talking tiny little individual lots. After each of those has evolved, then it's coming back and bringing those together, doing the tastings, exploring, which combinations, give us the best results. And as tends to be the case with Peter, since this is, his passion, and he can't just make one wine from it. There's always a couple. There could be three in some vineyards. and how he brings those wines together is really fascinating and exciting. So wines that, you know, that I couldn't see, he could bring through his blending. So we're really, you know, like doing all the steps in every way. So starting with the theory, the plantings, all of that, working the vineyard meticulously, organic production. The vineyard, the land's been organic for 25 years. So it's an amazing, exciting property that way. And then doing the individual picks, the individual ferments, the long aging, and then coming back to, you know, really explore our craft as winemakers and coming up with these extraordinary blends.
Hey, I know if Mira's right there on the other screen. Mira, if you're listening, yeah, and do you have right by my computer, there's the postcard. It's kind of a Peter's tasting notes. When I just can't picture him writing his notes and tasting the wines. And you guys have made that as a postcard. I thought it was absolutely brilliant. Do you have it close by, Mira, so we can show it to the people?
Yeah, I should have brought one too.
I know. Oh, I just love
to pull it up on the screen, but that'll probably take another minute. I can pull it up a little later. But yeah, so this is
that's the
notes.
Yeah, that's the one. This is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah,
that went to your wine club when you guys first released these Rieslings, right? With a note from
yeah.
Peter.
But what you might not be able to tell from that card is that that's not one tasting session. That's probably like 3 or 4 tasting sessions, and like bringing all the notes together. And you notice that it goes end to end, and that's how his notes are on the tasting sheets. They're always like, you know, taking up every millimeter of the page. So yeah,
it's certainly very detailed.
Yeah.
This is fantastic. So now what we're featuring now, it's the 2020, it's the new release of the 2020 vintage. We are now in 2024. So when you're talking about long aging, we've seen 2020 releases for 2.5 years now, right? And now finally Dobbin is releasing the 2 Rieslings, the Chardonnay and the Cabernet blend as the new release of the winery. Can you tell us what was the progress? Because you guys started in 2019. So which biggest step was between 2019 and 2020? Depending on the vintage, we're going to talk about what Mother Nature gave you. But in terms of the vineyard and in terms of the next step for you guys in 2020, where were you?
Yeah, I guess the 2019's was Peter and I were, the ones that were like the doing everything, I'll say, in terms of, the wine production and all of the steps. We were the team. And then in 2020, that's when we started to expand and hire out the team and hire in the team. And so Nathan Dobbin, who is an owner, and Wade's nephew is the estate manager, the domain manager. And so it was, he was able to start, filling that role and starting to develop things, in the back of the house, the label designs, all those kind of things, and getting the sort of business underway. And then we also hired Dave Brennan, who is a promising and talented winemaker. So, one day he'll be taking over all of this from us. And so 2020 really marked that big transition where it was just, a geek show, and, rolling it out to getting the team developed. But of course, you can't ignore the fact that it was an amazing growing season. So 19, you could call it a very classic Niagara growing season with, cooler, wetter weather. It was a long season, so we could, eke out some great flavors while still retaining a lot of beautiful acidity in the wine. Whereas I often think that, especially for the kind of wines that we're making with Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, Cabernet Franc, and Riesling, that that it's the warm vintages that are maybe more challenging, because we want to hit those windows that show the elegance and minerality of the region and not get overshadowed, and make some kind of, blockbuster kind of wine that's maybe an outlier in the long run. So,
but and there's the thing, though. I mean, okay, we love the 2020 for the big reds, and probably Rieslings fall into that category because they need a little bit more time. But for Chardonnay, to my opinion, 2019 was such an outstanding vintage for Chardonnay, and it reflects to what I've tasted into your wine as well. That 2019 Chardonnay, at that very moment, is absolutely shining right now. There's the beautiful density, but precision of flavors, length, complexity, salty minerality. There's got everything, and the nose is just so explosive right now. Obviously, 2020 is just a little baby at the moment, but in terms of style, have you guys modified the style a little bit from 2019, where it was just a start, and you say, okay, maybe 2020 we want to move towards something a little different, or the plan was established and you kept the exact same winemaking style throughout, and that's what it's going to be moving forward?
Yeah, I think the approach is going to be the same, where, with harvesting each vineyard block kind of at what we think is the ideal moment, doing the wild ferments in small vessels, letting those wines evolve individually in the cellar, and then bringing them together, after aging to create some interesting blends. So I don't see that changing a lot. I think every vintage has its uniquenesses, and maybe some challenges too, where you might have a rainy spell and you decide, oh, it's time to pick this clone before the rain, but that one's going to wait until after the rain, or things like that. So we're gonna run into those challenges, but I think by having that control over everything we do, we will be able to bring in some gorgeous wines.
Yeah, the 2019 Chardonnay is one of my highest rated Chardonnay this year at 94 plus points, I think. 2020, I gave it a 93 plus, I believe. So two amazing. I believe that 2020 will start developing a little later on. And in terms of oak usage, I think we're looking at, because I got that question, I got a couple of emails today from some of our members. In terms of new oak, I think 2020 is at 25% new oak. And was it the same thing also for 2019? And it will be that style moving forward, or?
Yeah. So new barrels that we're buying is about 20 to 25% overall. In we're talking Chardonnay, but actually we're taking the same approach with the Pinot Noir and the Cabernet Franc. Personally, we love barrel aging, and we love the what the fermentation and aging in barrels does, but we're not fans of wines that are really heavily marked by the new wood. We want that to be subtle and supporting the structure and longevity of the wine, but not really like that's not the lead aromatic. So keeping it in that sort of 20-25% range is definitely part of the plan.
Is it kind of the way to protect the terroir expression, right? Just I mean, not exceeding that 25 to 30% oak. Now we can talk more about the soil composition. You can feel more the salinity. You can have more of that typicity of the size, correct? More than the barrel effect on the wine.
For sure. And in Niagara, like, the really beautiful thing is that there's a lot of character from all of the traits, right? So the mineral soils that we have, they provide the backbone and the texture of the wine, and then there's fruit quality that's subtle, so it's not a cherry bomb or or a, overly, pineapple or whatever. Everything is very subtle. And so, but you get those layers. So, and then what does lees do? What does, some time in barrel, some extra time in barrel do for you? So all of those things, really, it's all about those layers and the subtlety and subtle complexity. So if there's any one trait that's too dominant, it's not what we're after. And certainly, oak and new wood is something that we can control easily. So yeah, the lower percentage is something that we'll consistently do.
There you go. Let's talk Riesling for just a little bit here. White cap, black cap. I had that. There you go. Well, what's in your glass? Tell us what's in your glass right now.
It's the 20 black cap.
There you go, right here. So I also had that question today. White cap, black cap. What is that, Carl? Can you help me here? So I believe that the white, it's the estate, so 100% estate grown. And with the black cap, there's also some fruits that are also harvested from some long-term partner, some vineyard that the reputation that you work with. So you're bringing some outside fruits from the property to make a wine a little bit more of a regional wines. And here you are 100% estate, correct?
Yes, and that's true in those vintages, 2019 and 20. But we also still applied the same principle. So you've got, the blending aspect to each of the wines coming from multiple picks. We chose to go with the cap colors. It is like a tradition or a historic way of indicating that there's slight differences. So for example, if you have a wine that's coming, a Riesling that's coming from a particular village or vineyard, and what the Germans would do is, have those multiple picks, have those, maybe they were Foudre lots, 1,000 liters or whatever, but you'd have several of them. And with wild fermentation, you get subtle differences, and maybe some finished a little drier or some finished a little sweeter, and they'd have a favorite customer or a restaurant, down the road that, they preferred the sommelier or the owner had a preference for a slightly different style, or different expression, I guess is better. And so they would say, okay, this is for this customer. And they'd put the gold cap on it or the short cap on it or the black cap or the white cap, so that it's kind of like a way that they could manage the inventory in-house, but still offer something really special for their clientele. And, that's kind of what we're after. It's like, it's so hard to button it down and say, this is the expression from this vintage. Instead, we're all about, these are two amazing wines that we can create from this vintage, and here's how you can tell the difference.
Yeah, no, sure, absolutely. I mean, in terms of alcohol level, they're fairly similar. In terms of texture, what I found is the estate, the white cap, is a little bit more nervy, a little bit more directional, with a little bit more energy in there, and you got a little bit more softness into the black cap, something a little bit rounder, with a little bit more layers. But here with the white cap, to me, it was the quintessential geeky Riesling, where I got hit by ginger, I got hit by minerality, I got hit by zippy lemon, but like just coming from everywhere. It was such an incredible experience. I enjoyed every second of dissecting that bottle from start to finish. Not to say, the black cap has it, but to me it was a little bit more approachable, a little bit rounder. Am I out for lunch here with my assessment?
Yeah, no, that's a really great summation, because I see both of those wines evolving, very slowly into the future, developing, with nuance and all those things. But, right now, that's a great explanation. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when we're talking ageability here, these wines 15, 20 years down the road are going to still be straight up. I mean, there's so much beautiful acidity. The structure is amazing. These wines are cellar perfect, correct?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And I mean,
You want to hang on to it if you can.
Yeah. Sorry, what was that?
They're definitely the kind you want to hang on to some bottles if you can, to see how they do over the time, right?
Yeah, and they're actually tiny production. So I was reminding myself that the white cap is a 62 case lot, so it's not going to be around for long. At least not available to purchase. But we know that it's going to last a long time in your cellar. So yeah,
That's incredible.
wow, this is really cool. I forgot that as well. I mean, when we have that available for our members, it's something that I have to I have to post about it tomorrow, because sometimes you forget these little nuances. 62 cases. Yeah, I mean, it's a privilege
Not
to have that in your
1,062. But
No.
Wow.
Not even 162. I mean, like 62 cases. Oh my God.
They're going to be gone pretty quick. Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. Okay, so before we move on and we let you go, let's talk about the red, because I mean, you guys are not only about white. We haven't seen any Pinot Noir coming out just yet, but you got the Cabernet, the Cabernet blend. Can we talk about the philosophy? The blend, is it exclusively Cabernet Franc? Is there a little bit of Cab Sauv in there? Can you tell us a little bit more about the Cabernet blend 2020?
Okay, so we talked about renovating the vineyard, and so in 2019 we were able to work with some Cab Sauv and Cab Franc from the property that we treated royally, thinned it heavily, and harvested essentially one cluster per shoot in order to be able to make a few barrels of a red wine from the property. But after that harvest, those vines were removed in order to do our ultimate planting. So when it came to 2020, we had no red grapes growing on the property, but with such an amazing vintage, we couldn't sit on the bench for that harvest. So we called in some favors from some excellent growers on the bench, and it included two Cab Franc vineyards, and then we also got some amazing Merlot that's actually from Niagara on the Lake, 4 Mile Creek vineyard that we knew well. So these were tiny lots. We did the ferments in open top 500-liter barrels with manual punch downs. That's me sticking my arm 2-3 times a day, and so it was a beautiful wine that came together. And like you say, it was the opportunity of the vintage. With the estate plantings, we've planted Cabernet Franc in kind of the sweet spot of the vineyard. It's sort of the high and dry, most exposed part of the property in the Martin Vineyard, right essentially through the middle. And so we also have 2 clones or 3 actually, that we were able to get. So that is what's going to be the basis of the wine starting in 2023. So we actually, let me think about this. We made the Cab blend, which is a gorgeous wine in 20, but in 21 and 22 we made the decision to wait for the estate fruit. So 23 will be the next Cabernet Franc that we do, and so there could be a gap there, but we'll be introducing our Pinot Noirs starting with the 22 vintage. So next spring you'll see some Pinot Noir in the lineup.
Well, let's talk about that. Let's tease our people a bit. Is it only one release of Pinot Noir, or are you going to do or are you going to do two different, like you did with the Riesling? What's the plan with the Pinot? Or we keep we keep the lid on the information and we don't talk about it?
Yeah, I mean, right now it's still in the works. So in 22, we had only 5 barrels from our single block of Pommard, and so we're really pleased with it, and it's coming along nicely in bottle, and we're opening a few bottles here and there, and really happy with it. So that'll be for the spring, but in the long run, we've got whatever it is, six different clones of Pinot.
Yeah, I see that here on your map. 6 of them.
Yeah, it's fun right now to taste the individuals and to see the distinct differences between them. But already we're starting to work on the blends to say, these seem to work together well, and how are we going to build up this Pinot, because of course we want to make a wine that's equal to or better than what we've been doing so far with Riesling and Chardonnay. So.
That's intriguing. Just so you know, we have a small producer here in Okanagan Falls. It's called Code Vineyards, Shea Code. He has now 4 single clone varietal that he does. And he also has the cuvee where he blends them all, and it's really, really intriguing. He has a 115. He has also the
777,
the 777, the cloned O2 Ancestral from Germany, and like the difference when you taste them all side by side is really, really, really cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. And I mean, it's 9 o'clock now. I mean, I don't want to abuse too much of your precious time. So I am so grateful. Thank you for, first and foremost, allowing us to offer these outstanding wines to our members across the country. Thank you for that. And thanks for being here and sharing your knowledge with all of us tonight. Thanks a million, Ann.
Yeah, thanks very much for, letting me indulge in all these details.
I mean, I'm a happy guy right now.
Yeah.
Thank you. And you say hi to Nathan and Peter for us. We greatly appreciate you guys. And here you go.
Okay. Cheers. Have a great night.
Have a great night. Thanks again.
Thank you. Thank you.
Wow. So much to learn. Jen was saying in the comments, there's no end to what you can learn about wine. And
no, especially when you're sitting in a conversation with Ann Sperling, there's so much you can learn every time, and just the kindness and the generosity of her natural kindness is just so amazing. I just love talking to her.
And gained sort of international renown early on, like in the 90s, I think, with her Merlot in the Okanagan Valley. But also, we didn't really mention it at all, but she's known as kind of a pioneer for organic and biodynamic winemaking in Canada.
Absolutely.
Surprisingly, we didn't talk about it all, but I just noticed on their card here that was sent to their wine club members. You see in the right corner. Oh, it clips it off because of hold on, I'll try to turn off this ticker. Clips it off? No, not there. It says certified organic and biodynamic. Certified organic. Here, let me just pull it up on my screen. I'll tell you exactly. Certified organic and sustainable vineyard.
Sustainable.
So certified organic and sustainable. Yeah. So, I mean, it's amazing what they've been able to do in such a short time. Those kinds of things take forever for some wineries to be able to jump through all those hoops. And she's such a pro that right out of the gate, they've got all that going on. So,
and you know what? And before we switch subject, I just want to make sure that I want to touch base about one thing. It's about the super premium, right? About the price point, because when there's all that. There's the super high score. There's outstanding wines. But when you look at the price point, I mean, these are $60 to $80 wine. So, I mean, what does make this super premium category, right? What do I, Carl Boucher, looking for when I taste these super premium wine, because I don't taste these wines the same way that I taste the value wine, right? Value wine, I taste them for immediate, for immediate gratification, how great they are right now, how long, whoops, sorry, like this one, there you go. And when I taste the super premium, I go about it in a complete different angle, a complete different expectation. My mindset is completely different. And there's one thing that I always look for when I taste super premium wine, and it's texture. Something that I don't get. If I don't get silky and satin-like texture when I taste super premium wine at that price point, that's where I check out. That's where I'm like, not worth it. To me, texture, it's critical.
And I agree with you. So you've blind tasted me on wines at different price points. We've done it live a couple times, and it's so true. Like, you told me that at one point. Look at the texture. And I'm like, wow, it is.
Pay attention of the texture. And I mean, like, now people will ask me, like, why there's some are so expensive like that? But I mean, listen to what Ann just said. When we talk about the Riesling, 5 different picks, right? 5 different picks, berry by berry sometimes, grape by grape, all of these micro
specific kind of balance.
All of these micro cuvee, all of these micro fermentation in small batch, all individual, extra time in barrel, extra everything, the study of the soil, all of the detail of where each and every single vines are going. At the end of the day, there is a good explanation of the price point. Now, you can tell me everything that, oh yeah, because of this, because of that, but at the end of the day, the wine has to be spectacular to be worth it. Because at the end of the day, that's how not only Carl, who rates wine every day on a scale of 100, but someone who purchased a bottle, he's going to rate in his head if it's good or not. And does he get his money back? Does he get his money worth? That's what I mean, right? When I taste it, when I smell it, when I enjoy it with friends, do I get my money worth it? And when I taste Dobbin, and it's incredible because 2 years in, now we're releasing the sophomore vintage. We're releasing vintage number 2. And what I get in there, it's freaking outstanding. It is really, really cool. We talked about it walking out. I remember driving away from the tower after our first tasting, and I was almost speechless. Remember? I was like, "Oh my God, I can't believe it!"
Our phone died by that point. Our phone died because I took so many little clips and things. But yeah, I mean, this is us pulling up to it, and then you just don't expect it. You get up there, and it's so gorgeous. I mean, like, look at the view once you're up there, right? And of course, we're with Ann Sperling, Peter Gamble, that's Nathan and Dave. Nathan Dobbin is the estate manager.
And this is very excited, Carl. This is Carl.
Very excited, Carl.
Very excited, Carl. My hands were just like moving like a million gesture a minute.
Yeah, you can see that. Look at that. How excited he was.
I would like.
Since we're on that subject, I should mention, okay, so they paired their wines. These wines are the kind of wines that compel you to do this, okay? This is my French onion soup from the other day. I don't like cutting onions, okay? And to make French onion soup, you got to sit there and like thinly slice onions for like an hour, okay? But that is what an amazing wine does, because we took one sip of that wine and I'm like, we need some kind of incredible food to go with this incredible wine because it inspires you, you know? It's the same way that an amazing like cab blend inspires me to make short ribs or something that, you know, take forever to make and you just don't make them normally. But you get a wine like these wines and you just want to pair it with something spectacular as well. So I got to mention at the Tower, when they do these tower tastings, this is what they pair. It is off the charts. Like the wine on its own, you can sit there and geek out on it by itself. But when you pair it, it just elevates the whole thing to another level.
Well, and that what makes a premium brand. I mean, that's all part of the concept, right? The cards that you've seen, the pairing. That, I mean, I started my career. There you go. I got you. I started my career in the food industry. I work in some of the top fine dining across the country. When I saw that pairing, when I was sitting at the tower, I was like, holy shit. I mean, this is like top level pairing. This is the top pairing I've ever seen in wine country. At a winery? Absolutely. I have never encountered that type of pairing at a winery. Never before.
And it's kind of fun. They sent me what they pair things with. So that black cap Riesling, that's like a cuvee of a couple different, three different vineyards.
Yeah.
That one, they pair it with duck prosciutto, pickled apple, and savory sesame pancake. Okay. The white cap Riesling, I'll tell you in a second. So the white cap Riesling, they pair it with phyllo pastry, chèvre cheese, bosc pear, and honey. So good. And then the Chardonnay, they pair with a puff pastry vol au vent mixed with locally grown and wild mushrooms, or inside is a mix of.
That's the one on the left here on the picture.
Yeah, with herbs.
That's the vol au vent.
And then the Cab blend, which we have spoken about the three white wines, or the Rieslings and the Chards quite a bit, but the Cab blend is something else on its own. I mean, it's also a very highly rated wine, and they pair that with
one of the most gorgeous nose on the wine that I've ever experienced. The aromas and that wine, and that's how many times, like we were tasting it here, and how many times I said I can spend my night sitting here only smelling that wine. It was just so sensual. The aromas were just so compelling. Every time I smelled that one, I felt like I was tasting it.
And telling too that was the wine that sold out first of their 2019 release. So now you have the 2020, which for reds is an even more spectacular vintage.
Yeah, absolutely.
So get your hands on some of those if you can, if you like red blends.
And again, like we're talking like 75 to 100 cases, like such a small quantity. And for us to have access to that, it's a privilege. I am so excited. Again, it's not for everybody. It's super premium. But if you're a collector, or if you're someone who's starting a cellar and you're looking for something to build around, I mean, this is it. This is it.
Yeah.
To follow Ann Sperling and Peter Gamble's creation every year, and to have that on an early stage, they already have reached the pinnacle level of rock star wines right out of the gate. This is really fucking impressive. It's incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I want to say, though, Clay and Joanna in Vancouver will be happy with this one. When we were at the winery, right, we just talked about what they paired with the Chard and the Rieslings. With the Cabernet blend, they paired a miso glazed roasted eggplant with caramelized onion and white bean spread on a crispy panko and soft tortilla, which is vegetarian.
Yep.
With a big red blend.
Clay often bug me, say, hey, can you give me some freaking pairing that doesn't involve a steak or a lamb or something?
Yeah, I guess you can't have steak and lamb every night. And I thought too, like eggplant is kind of hard to pair, isn't it? It's one of those.
Yeah. It's not one of our worst enemy, but it's not something it was literally like, it's something earthy. It's something a little bit really.
And I gotta say, like, I didn't know exactly what was each of these things here, but it paired so well. So I think that second one is the
that's the eggplant and the tortilla.
Yeah, really good.
So A plus experience at Dobbin's, and the wines and the ageability, it's incredible right there. So yeah, if you are a little bit of a collector or someone who like to experience and experiment the super premium category, Don't miss out on that one because, yeah, like I said, these are trophies. They won't last for a long time. There's already some fairly wealthy Toronto people who are on it. They've done a couple of private tasting at the Vintage Conservatory. They've been on the Toronto market quite a bit, visiting with some collectors and
I
some
think
of the
we
top
can
world.
say, yeah, some of the top. Go ahead.
Yeah, some of the top collectors are into these wines. They know, like people who knows who Ann Sperling and Peter Gamble's are. And now with that piece of land, with the potential, and with the not sparing any details on super top quality. I mean, this project is just destined this time to shine and to be one of the top in the country.
I think it's okay to mention that Dobbin will be one of the wineries at La Grande Dégustation in Montreal in November, near the end of November. And you, Carl Boucher, are going to go out there and help them out with some of that French speaking. So if there's members in the Montreal area at the end of November, Carl might send you a little note to say, hey, I'm in town. Maybe we'll do a members meetup at some place.
Yeah, because I mean, Dave and I, so Dave is the assistant winemaker, are going to be, yeah. And you know, when you're asked by Nathan and Ann and Peter, say, hey, would you mind to serve our wine and talk about our brand to one of the top wine show in Montreal? Would you mind to do that for us? You're like, fuck yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I want to do that because for me, to pour some Dobbin wines for 3 days at one of the very top show in Montreal,
it's going to be fun.
Yeah.
Because we're all about changing perceptions about Canadian wine. And this is a winery that is pushing those boundaries. Like you can put these wines side by side, any of the top international ones. And yeah, these would probably come on top because they've got some of that. There's things in Niagara wine that I think are very hard for some of the old world places to recreate, like especially with the changing climate and stuff. There's that zippiness in Niagara and that minerality, and they're just shining, these wines, aren't they?
Absolutely. So yeah, that's Dobbin's week here at Carl's Wine Club. 6:15, already an hour and 15 minutes in. We haven't talked anything else, but
I'm going to put the tasting notes link in the comments. You can get the Dobbin wines with reduced flat rate shipping for less than 4 bottles and free shipping for 4 or more until Sunday. It is a great time to try them out. You can get all 4 of the 2020s. With free shipping. I
also have my highest rated, the 2019 Chardonnay, as a bonus pick. Add that on, and I mean, these wines are absolutely. Well, you know, we often talk about, you know, doing that wine show, going on the road in France and bringing some Chardonnays or Pinot Noirs in our luggage, and just randomly open a bottle of Canadian wines and randomly blind taste the vigneron in a foreign country. At glance, like quickly in my head, if I have to bring like Dobbin's wines coming with me to France, this is for sure. Like, I mean, this is world class that can blow socks off to the foreign winemaker. Like, definitely, it's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do want to mention, we just sent an email. There's 12 more spots left for our VIP All Access Pass for the Pan Canadian. I know it's early. It's the end of October, but we're almost sold out for that VIP All Access Pass for next June for the Pan Canadian weekend. It's 5 events centered around the Pan Canadian. We're going to do a welcome reception, a full day of vineyard touring with a lunch and a dinner. There's the Pan Canadian itself, which is at 13 wines and winemakers from across Canada gathering together, and you get to taste them. And then on the Sunday after the Pan Canadian, we're going to do a full day of winery touring with lunch. So you can get all of that right now if you're a VIP and Unlimited member for The early bird, I think, is about $520 or so. And the regular price is $249 more. So you save a lot, and there's only 12 spots left. So if you're thinking of that, and I didn't even mention, Carl, the swag bag. There's going to be a swag bag.
That's on top of it. So, and the swag bag will be just around, like, probably in value, $100 to $150 in value. We're talking about, and these spots, like for the all inclusive pass. This is for the hardcore Canadian fan like us, right? The one who likes to. They're gonna travel for that. And we're gonna spend 3.5 days immersing ourselves in all aspects of the Canadian wine industry with winemakers, with winery owners. You guys are going to be surrounded like probably there's 95% of the chance that Richard De Silva is going to be with us, traveling with us, and Rob Hammersley from Black Mike. These guys are going to be with us the whole way. I'm telling you, if you haven't been following us during one of these events, like some of our VIP Unlimited we've done in the last couple years, this is a heck of an experience. It's not visiting wineries like anyone else. This is really special. So we're looking forward to it. 3.5 days of event. We can already say that our welcome reception is going to be held at Bella Terra Vineyard by the pond. There, and we're talking, Marcel, Mira, and I, a really cool concept for the welcome reception on the Thursday night. So get your on-in pass. Travel with us. You can get
a ticket to any individual event, like the Thursday night reception and dinner. It's about $65, including your dinner and wine. The pricing is really reasonable, but right now you get the early bird rate. And if you're a VIP Unlimited member, you can get a heck of a chunk off of the early bird as well. So the
early bird ends Friday night, right?
It ends Friday night, and there won't be an opportunity like this one again. That's for sure. There might be like something going on. We're going to extend a late early bird to perhaps like the participating wineries, perhaps to our members at a certain point. But nothing like this at all. Like just you're looking at maybe 10% off at some point in the future.
Absolutely.
If it's like August event, Niagara is going to be epic. Yes, it is going to be like the August event, but times 3.5.
That's it. So Jen, you were with us with the Bachelor Vineyard touring. This is going to be like that, but for 3.5 days. Back to back to back. You're going to be immersed.
We did learn from the last one that it is fun to go back to back to back and do things as long as all our meals are taken care of, because that's like, if you recall, after the Bachelor day of touring, we were all like, oh, that's great, but now we're all starving. We need to go for dinner. So we've included a lot of those meals in our plans. For one, because I think then we're going to get better meals. They're going to be there ready on time where we need them. And for two, it ends up being a bit of a deal, because you don't end up going to some random restaurant and dropping $100 on something that might not be that good. So we'll make sure it's up to our standards, and we have food ready to go when we need it. Because, wine tasting is quite a sport. I mean, you need to support yourself, your body with that. So
There you go, Mira. Thank you. I think that's it for this week. And that was fun. That was a heck of a fun. Thanks to Ann Sperling. It's Dobbin Estate wine this week. So there you go. Do you have anything else, Mira?
Not for now. We're going to be starting filming on our 8-part TV series that's going to be aired on TELUS fiber optic networks in BC and Alberta next fall. So that's going to be kind of fun. We'll give you guys some sneak previews of what we learn with that show. 8-part series on the Okanagan wine regions. So it should be a lot of fun. Cheers, everyone. Hope you have a great night.
There you go. Canadian wine lovers, Carl's Wine Club members. Cheers. See you next time.